Hi, this is Preston Culbertson. I'm going over Physics 2212, Test 1 in fall 2013. I'm going to be reviewing a problem that gave me trouble. The problem I will be reviewing is the true and false questions. So what we have here is a neutral rod of an unknown material brought near a metal charged sphere, and it actually touches the sphere, which means if it's a conductor, it allows the charges to flow into the rod. If not, it just means that you would have grounded the metal sphere. So you touch the metal sphere, you pull it away, and then you bring a negatively charged piece of tape near the rod and observe that the tape is repelled. So what that means is that it says that the tape's repelled no matter what part of the rod you hold the tape near to, which means by touching the sphere, the rod has gained a uniform charge all the way around it, which means that it must be a conductor, because not only did it gain a charge from touching the sphere instead of just grounding it, it also gained a uniform charge throughout the whole rod. So that implies that the rod is a conductor. So I'm going to highlight that to show that that's the correct answer. Now I'm going to move on to the next question. The rod has a net positive charge after touching the sphere. Well, you see that the negatively charged tape is repelled whenever it's held near the rod. So that means since like charges repel, the rod must have a net negative charge. Next, the magnitude of the charge on the ball is lower after touching it. So what the answer to this question must be true, because the charge on the rod, it started out neutral, and now it is a net positive charge in terms of magnitude. Well, the charge on the rod had to come from somewhere, and so what it was is actually electrons, because this rod is a conductor, flowing from the metal sphere into the rod. And so since those electrons flowed, and since there's a net positive number of electrons, what that means is that some of those excess electrons from the sphere flowed into the rod, which allows it to have a lower magnitude of charge. And so, as I just explained, electrons flowed from the ball to the rod while they were in contact. They flowed into a place of less charge, so to speak. So that is true. So now we move into the second part of the question, which is we touch the rod, and after doing so, we observe that the charge tape is no longer repelled by any part of the rod. What that means is essentially you grounded the rod and took all of the excess charge off of it. And so now we're going to look into a little bit of what happened when you touched it. So while touching the rod, chloride ions, Cl, moved from your skin to the rod. So since your skin has salt water, it has chlorine, Cl minus, and sodium ions, Na plus, on the surface of your hand that would be able to move to a charged surface. However, because the rod has a net negative charge, as we discussed in the earlier question, um, the chlorine ions from your skin are not going to move to the rod because it's not looking for extra negative charge. It's actually looking for extra positive charge. So that answer is false. However, the positive sodium ions would move to the negative rod. So that answer is true. Next, electrons from the mobile electron C in your hand move to the rod. Now, I think this is a poorly worded question because the sodium and chloride ions on your on the salt water in your skin actually can act as a mobile electron C. However, I think what the instructors were looking for is that the mobile electron C is something that you only find in a metal, not in a complex insulator like our skin. So I'm going to answer that as false. Also, again, electrons or negative charges are not going to move from the rod to your hand. So that answer is false as well. Last two things. Protons are pulled out of the nuclei of atoms in your hand and moved to the rod. That never happens. So both of these, whether from your hand or from the rod, must both be false. So that's my review of the true and false question from test 1 for Physics 2212. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks.